Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and we are going to end our series taking a look at random tables, basically, mini games that have a cornucopia, an overload of random bullet points, things like that to help us knock loose the structures in our brain that prevent us from being creative. And the whole point of this channel is to talk about tabletop role-playing games and to be as creative as we can. And sometimes we need a little tool, something to ignite that mind fuel that happens to be laying dormant in our brains. And we're going to take a look at Kevin Crawford's Worlds Without Number. We previously looked at Stars Without Number and Cities Without Number, but this is the classic. Down below, if you are questioning this, because we're going to take a look at the PDF. I need a new camera. My current camera is on the fritz. There is a paid and a free version of this game, but we're going to specifically take a look at the numerous numbers of randomizations to create your own fantasy world and to, use those elements to think outside the box, even if it's just a prompt or you intend on using it for prep or at the table. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. But first, intro, and then we'll come on back. And hopefully people will find it because there's nobody here. Welcome to your place in the corner of the interwebs for mind fuel, right? It's the place where we get creative. It's the location that you want to be to express yourself and hang out for a little bit. So we're going to take a look at Worlds Without Number. Hey. Yeah, I think the link went up a bit late. Yeah, the camera's just not. Yeah, this is my backup camera, and it really does not want to cooperate at all. Oh well, good. Anyway, I got the PDF, so that's the important part. So, Worlds Without Number. Worlds Without Number, of course, is classic fantasy. Now, the creator himself has described it as being a bit OSR. I agree. It is in OSR in the sense that if you're thinking of old school Dungeons and Dragons, definitely that way. Now, sometimes the term OSR, like old school, well, we know that it stands for many things: old or original. The S can stand for school or system. The R can stand for Renaissance or rules, or what have you. It doesn't matter. OSR tends to go along the lines of rules light in current parlance, and maybe that's not necessarily the case, simply because this book, Worlds Without Number, is, wow, I didn't even count the pages, almost 400 pages, 391, give or take. And when you've got that many pages, you're like, is it really rules light? Well, technically it is. And the reason why I would agree that it is OSR is because while the rules are light, it gives a lot of best practices. I mentioned that the other day. There are numerous bits of information, and the layout is excellent too, in the sense that when you open up the book, much of the information here is done in a 2-page layout. Essentially, when you open up the book, you have everything you need in 2 pages. Yes, there's some artwork here, great, but you have everything you need about magic and arcane traditions on 1 page. You can get spells and arts and reaction rolls and magic and all that kind of stuff, and it's reserved for 2 pages. And what I love about that is you can bookmark your pages, open it up, whether it's PDF or you got the dead tree. I love myself a physical book. I love the smell of paper. It's horrible, but what have you? Hey, we to each our own, right? And what I love about that is for me as a visual person, I can very easily reference a page. And then if you bookmark the page, it's not like you're bookmarking a page and then going, wait a minute, the rule also bleeds over to this other section. It's not really like that. Uh, again, it does have you can randomize character creation, and it gives the benefit of like, oh, you can pick and choose 2 things, but if you want to randomly roll, you get 3 things. And I would consider that, I would use that method even for character advancement. Yes, this is a level system, but it's level light, and Drew mentions. I agree with you. Having lots of tables does not mean it is not rules light. I just don't like the world emulation style of tables. That's fine. And mind you, remember the whole point of having the random tables itself is to get the mind flowing, right? It's not been meant to be prescribed. And I think sometimes in our gaming community, if something is written down, it is sacrosanct. It cannot be changed, and that's weird. That's why, despite the love for what is it, Dark Sun, the one of the most popular classic, hardcore survival settings, won't happen because you're going to have to get rid of many things that people consider to be prescribed. In other words, you're going to have to change the rules, and people are we in the community, we get comfortable with rules and rulings that are in our favor. And when you then tell somebody, oh yeah, remember that game that you purchased, we're going to get rid of a bunch of things in it to accomplish the goal of getting the theme and the mood of a setting. Sometimes it can be a little bit off-putting. But yeah, and also I think we need to have other terminology for rules light, rules heavy, because to me, random tables they don't count when it comes to rules, right? To me, those randomizations are just they're just tools. They're just it's not like it's a rule that applies to random tables. You don't have to use random tables at all. But to me, I think it just, like I said, to me, random tables are like bullet points. And using those bullet points are just like, oh, knock loose the cobwebs. And sometimes you could roll in these tables and go, I'm not using that. But it made me think about this other thing. And so I like that. Drew says, yeah, for me, narrative elements are much better to get my mind flowing. Setting elements always feel hollow to me, but I understand that I'm a weirdo. Not necessarily. No, I don't. Well, listen, weirdos are where we all land in a tabletop community, right? Like that's where we want to be. It was always the home for us. So yeah, hold on to that weirdness. So I am going to this is unlike the other ones where games Stars Without Number and sorry, here we go. Unlike the other games, Stars Without Number and Cities Without Number, both, here we go, Stars and Cities, this one has a lot more. Fantasy seems to be the big thing, and Stars Without Number, Cities Without Number, and then of course we got our one with Worlds Without Number. Strange that the title's at the bottom of the book, but you got to show off the great artwork, right? Having narrative elements, I think, whether those narrative elements bring out like an emotion or feeling or what am I thinking of? Like my brain just stopped. For the closest thing I can get to it is Wraith the Oblivion is like my go-to for a game that really embraces like narrative elements, because it really isn't about punching people in the throat. That game is all about personal ambition and guilt and desires and fears and insecurities and things like that. So yeah, that, and again, that's the kind of game that you really want to go to. This one, this is just me halfway showing off that there's a lot of games that I love. Hey, good morning. There's a lot of games that I love and the reasons why I love them. And I was like, man, I got a hell of a lot of games with like random elements to it. So we're going to let me hit the gas pedal and go through some of these things and go back and forth for you guys. This is geography construction. This is again a 2-page spread, and one of the great things about this, let me see if I could show off the two-page spread. Here we go. This is the normal layout. You can see on the borders, on the edges of the pages, you can see some color and some artwork. And again, you can bookmark these and refer to them. And this is geography construction, talking about like rolling, whether you have like ancient farmlands or wastelands or rolling hills or sand dunes or things like that, and making your how to make your map. And this is starting out from way above. It's the zoom, far zoomed out and zoom in kind of thing, and that's how it's set up. So we're going to go through this, but yeah, this is geography construction. And oops, I went the wrong direction. And here we have everything from wastelands, blasted lands, jagged mountains, islands, a megaplex, rainforests, rocky hills, rolling hills, sandy deserts, and things like that, dense forests and whatnot. Okay. He has a number of these things called one roll. One roll, basically, you take your set of classic dice, a D4 through a D20, get 6 of them, roll them on the tables, combine them together, and then you've got terrain features. And then on the other things, all the words and things like that are like your best practices. Hey, consider this, or add this element in, or to make a twist or make something interesting, why don't you roll this other thing? So for example, like the titles of these tables are like, how populated is the feature, what antagonists are common there, how dangerous is this terrain feature, what use is the feature, optional quirks, and what kind of event last happened there. And you'll notice in a lot of Kevin Crawford's tables that there's an element of like investigation, like, well, what did happen there? What was, like, not only is it, instead of creating a static element, there may have been, will be, there may have been or will be some other event that took place that may change what's happening, whether you're dealing with NPCs or geographic features or things like that. Here we have our 2-page spread of creating a nation. So it's like the titles of the tables are like disputes with neighboring states, positive ties with the neighboring state, current national problems, good things happening right now. You're like, oh, okay. And even just these first 2 tables, like what are positive ties with a neighboring state and disputes with the neighboring state. And of course, many of those do not have to be placed into a state of stasis. They could be happening simply because of something the players did, or the players arrive in a time when there is an upheaval and whatnot. And yeah, on the left side, I talk about borders, populations, and urbanization, things like that for your fantasy realm. There are nation themes, a D20 table of nation themes, and goes in terms of describing what those things are. Everything from like pageantry and prosperity and triumph. Maybe there's decadence, despair, or exhaustion. There could be oppression or violence or enlightenment, and things of that nature. Yeah, love it. Society construction. So, and then there's a little breakout box for playable societies, making playable societies. And then there's like the physical appearances of like skin colors that are very common, or what's the typical build of the people, optional common forms of adornment, hair color and style, optional physical quirks or traits, and things like that. And again, this is to break us out of the norm. For example, if you are used to making, I don't know, Nordic cultured, styled, and ancient people's foods and clothing, and you're like, I need something different. This is a great way to break out of that, and that's why I like random tables, because you might not have thought of picking something from Madagascar and go, you know what? Yeah, I really need something different in my world, because I keep doing the same thing over and over again. Break us out of our usual thought patterns. Eye color, hair color, textures, things like that. Values in a society, whether that society has values they esteem. A D100 table over there. There's society aesthetics, like a major unit of social identity, and example template societies. And even example template societies, there's D20 table here of like, there we go. Examples like Victorian England, Spring and Autumn China, Mali Empire, Renaissance Italy, Fantasy Viking land, Aztec Empire, post-Islamic Arabia, Polynesian Islanders, Greek city-states, Mongolian steppe nomads, things like that, pre-Columbian North American tribes, indigenous peoples, etc., etc., etc. Government construction. Got to have yourself some government sources of legitimacy, the ruling authority, examples of ruling classes, institutions, and agents of central. And again, going back to, I'm gonna stop right here and go see what you guys have to say. Again, you may roll in these tables and go, I don't like anything that I just rolled up, or you for prep, you may be influenced to maybe do some Google foo and decide to look up some things. Maybe you're the kind of person that really likes your OpenAI Chat GPT, and you need some prompts to throw in there. But to each their own. Maybe there's even a path you thought you were going to go down, or your players do that thing where they make that left turn and you weren't expecting it, and they decide to crest the ridge of the place that you haven't detailed at all. And again, random tables really help in that matter. But remember when I said random tables are like bullet points, so using random tables, just look at them and not even roll any dice at all. You just kind of look at some prompts and go, oh, I like that prompt. Hey, that's a really good story hook. I think that always fits as well. There's over here, the forms of rulership, like single and multiple rulers, and diseases of rule, like current struggles within the government. I like the description of diseases of rule, even though it doesn't necessarily mean diseases, like in the pathological sense. Well, no, maybe it does. But the diseases of rule are those things where power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and there are things like that. So yeah, like what is it about the rulership of this land that kind of is like growing and spreading and being pathological that these people are engaged in, and that may be something you hadn't even thought about. Here we go. All right, let's get back to government details. Get yourself some dice. All right, what do we have here? Government details. Let's see. How stable is the government? Rolled a 3. Relatively stable with strong legitimacy. That's cool. How established is the current rule? They have some basic ties with strong allies. All right, yeah, pretty basic. Officials recently causing problems. We have 9. Pitiless inquisitors hunting out dark magic. Now that could be a real thing happening in this world, or maybe they made it up. Who knows? What problems do their ministers have? Let's see. The administrators, their chief schemes are too much against rivals. Maybe they're too obsessed about their enemies and not looking at the internal strife that they're causing, because they're spending so much time and energy to root out these dark magics they believe to be hiding around every corner. Salem witch trials, anyone? Okay. Recent governmental event. Let's see, I rolled a 3. A chief minister fell rapidly from grace. Maybe because they were accused of dealing with dark magics, but they really weren't. Or maybe they really were. And then lastly, a strength of the government is, roll the D10, the 9. It's got firm ties with an important faith. And I think all that kind of goes together, right? Uh, Faith and religion and the government and whatnot, and it could be going downhill simply by virtue of you know focusing too much time on rooting out some great evil that they believe exists in this world. Then we've got history construction. How did it originate? Historical crises. What was great about its peak? Why did it fall? Why did it fail at the final crisis? And what became the unabsorbed survivors from maybe a cataclysm or something? How did they overcome the crisis? What became of the original inhabitants? You got to have. This is fantasy, right? So you always have to have these lost cities and ancient crypts with runes and languages that the players are stumbling upon and trying to figure out. Again, we have a list of historical events, and you could roll one of these as many times as you want, or just pick and choose some. Let me see something that I don't normally see with historical events. Class struggle, economic boom, new rulers, poverty, power brokers, maybe. Resource collapse is a good one. Secession is another good one. Terrain change, not very common, but it can happen. Sunken city of Atlantis feels, like that. Xenophilia and xenophobia. I don't really hear about xenophilia too often, but like I said, pick, choose, use them. We're still going on. We got region construction and things like a religion construction, not region. Religion construction. Who leads the faith? What are the clergy like? What does this God do in society? What does the faith want? And creating, religions, these artificial religions in our fantasy series. Why does the faith even matter? I think a lot of times, especially like what does the faith do in society, I think sometimes we forget that, as player characters, we love to have ourselves like, a domain of fire and war and like a lot of the very cinematic styled things. But for the most common people, they're not really into that. It's more like, what can my faith do for me? And usually it's like hearth and home. So let me roll up like 3 of these. There's dice. Number 8. It's flatly illegal and hated by most. Ooh, that's illegal. It's the war god or patron of those who fight. You gotta have that. I get it. You gotta have that. Let's see, number 4. It's a devil figure that must be placated. That's scary, but we have seen things like that where you have a deity like a Neptune that must be placated in order to keep them from causing too much harm. It protects the soul in the afterlife. And I think a lot of times, like, we've got fertility gods, weather, hearth and safety gods, right? Whether it's like storms or food or shelter, love and luck. A lot of times, for economic prosperity. And sometimes we forget about that. The god's portfolio, temple details, who's it? There's some titles like who's in charge there? What problems do they have? What particular help can it provide? Particular quirks about the temple. What do the locals think of it? Of it? Really cool. Got to have yourself some malevolent cults, evil cults, tables for that. Ruins, placing ruins and points of interest and location tags. Gotta have things like that. Rural villages, of course. Always coming across your rural villages as you travel through the uncharted lands. Compound tables so you can mix and match things. Major cities, tribes, and exiles. So major cities, different bits and pieces. Again, compound tables. My definition of compound tables essentially is like a table with numbers usually going up and down, north south, and then if you read them straight across, east and west, as you have different columns, you can mix and match those columns to have even more options. So you don't need to necessarily roll, say, features of the city. Just roll a single d12. You can roll on it multiple times to get multiple combinations. So, although there's nothing stopping anyone from doing anything with your own thing, but yeah, tribes and exiles, community tags, and again, here we are with these are tags, bullet point tag things that he's created. The EFCTP, enemies, friends, complications, things, and places. And of course, got a D100 table, and then and there's a lot of these. There's a lot of them. Let me see what you guys have to say. Oh, all right. Sit back, relax. Enjoy the take. What I like about the community tags is you could copy and paste these, and these, to me, the community tags are like again, like bullet points. They're prompts, and the EFCTP portion of it is like a reminder, usually a very simple sentence, a word or phrase to just keep you reminded of elements to throw into the game so that the players understand what this place is about. So for example, let's see, we've got brilliant innovation, and under brilliant innovation, example enemies include things like a grasping guild master or overbearing local lord, maybe a local leader whose power is threatened by the innovation, the development of the horseless carriage and whatnot, and somebody owns a huge horse ranch. For friends, we've got like a visionary supporter of the innovator, or outside merchants seeking to profit by enabling the innovation, or maybe there's a local leader whose constituency would profit from it. And then there's like complications, like the innovation requires ingredients only adventurers can get, or the innovation is riskier than it seems, or maybe the innovation is actually a con artist. And then we have things like critical component for innovation, trove of profit from the innovation's test run, or maybe even vital planning and design documents. And lastly, we've got places, like an ambitious test zone for the innovation, a guild hall of upset locals, or a tavern with locals fighting over the change. And you don't need to use all of these things, but to reinforce the theme that you are going for, using these prompts can really help it out. Like I've always said before, with like a tavern is a microcosm of your setting. So when the players go to your local air quotes tavern, you can have your NPCs talking about local things that are happening, rumors, physical manifestations of what's going on. Are people digging in the mines, and they should be dirty, and they're here having a drink and relaxing because of having just finished another 16-hour day in the catacombs or something. And this is a great way to throw in a bunch of these prompts, these tags, these tags that he's calling community tags. And yep, page, because he does go into describing a lot of them. Aristocratic courts does the same thing, talks about aristocrats, the courts, got some random tables to get your people here. Business courts, criminal courts, random tables for that. Familial clan courts, religious courts, and then court tags, and then all of the ways you can describe them. Especially if you are running a game that is, dare I say, Game of Thrones-ish, where players have a lot of social and political connections. A lot of prompts for that as well, and then goes in describing the EFCTP, enemies, friends, complications, things, and places, and describes each and every one of them that are listed in the table. Of course, you have to have ruins and dungeons. So we've got ruins and a bunch of classic dice tables for that. There is a meta setting for Worlds Without Numbers, so this isn't just a sandbox and a framework. There really is a background in this game. There is a meta to it. If you'd like to play it, I mean, there's a map, there's meta, there's nations, there's peoples and things like that, in addition to the framework that I'm kind of perusing through, showing off here. So you can do that. So like ruins of ancient deeps, ruins of the rule of Shun, the Vothalite Empire, the Brass Hegemony. So yeah, all those. This is just emblematic of his own world. Ruin tags. Of course, we got a percentile die table, D100 table of ruin tags, and all kinds of things. Dire tombs, desperate hunger, civil war, distant gates, cyclical dooms. Monster Forge, sacrificial bargain, sealed evil, of course. All of these wilderness encounters. You got to have your wilderness and exploration, and details about that. Non-human sapient encounters, human encounters, beasts and monsters out in the wilderness, of course. What's happening with the beasts? What's happening with the sapients? Wilderness tags, and a whole bunch of these wilderness tags as well. Military outposts, ruined fortifications, a disused mine, hermitage, a historical survival location, and etc., etc. Criminal outposts, blah blah blah. Lost cities, outsider enclave, overgrown tombs, and of course all of your enemies, friends, complications, things, and places that you might find there. And then using this game in other settings. But let's see if we could hurry up. Do we want to get to the monsters? Wealth? Oh, no, you know what? No. We're not going to go towards... there's a ton of magic items, lists, and random things to make your magic items. We're not going to go there. We're not going to go. Yeah, I mean, you know what that's about. 288. Oops. What happened here? We're going to go to the blight and its consequences. The blight is like a it's like a growing evil, and if you want to have a growing evil in your growing evil or corruption or something, there are examples of that. How to make your monsters unique, monster shapes and appearances, characteristics. Of course, we have ourselves like a compound table of details that you can use, from are they mammalian, insectile, reptilian, avian, and things you can add to them. Like under avian, you've got like feathers, beaks, talons. Maybe they have a light body, hollow bones. Songs that they may sing, bright colors, sharp eyes, eggs, diving, from flying around and diving at you, flocks, regurgitation, and guano. And those are little elements you may add to your monsters if they aren't fully, say, avian or something. And also details that they might leave behind, like feathers or guano or singing, something like that. How do they hunt? That's kind of cool too. whether they stalk stealthily, steals the kills off of other creatures, which is kind of cool. Whether they're like carrion creatures, or they're opportunist. It blindly eats whatever it encounters. It lures its prey with some kind of bait. It's got a partnership with the other kind of beast. It feeds on carrion and the very weak. And those can also be good for players to uncover those traits about monsters and things. Monster drives. You guys know I'm a consummate fan of context and what drives the monster, from conquest or domination or destruction, defilement, reproduction, theft, uncanny powers and abilities, making up your own monsters, debilitating powers, intrinsic powers, augmented powers, contextualizing your monsters. Gotta have that context. And again, let's see, our monster number 2, it's a product of human sorcerer kings. How common is that? Its connection with the past is, let's see, number 7. Its home was a place that is now gone. How much local contact does it have? The locals make wild guesses and myths of it. How do the locals react to its drive? They try to kill it, actively hunting it down. And what scars has it left, and a twist to its activity. So the scars that it has left, land has been made worthless by its threat. Ooh, gotta feed the people. We can't do that. And a twist to his activities, 18. The locals believe something very false about it. And again, multiple tables, jarring something in your head. An experiment gone wild. Although what just went through my mind was like girls going wild videos. But yeah, it could be an experiment going wild, and now the place doesn't exist anymore. But what was left is still running around, and maybe the local population's like, it's been too long. We need to get rid of it. Reaction rolls, morale checks, things like that. Everything doesn't have to fight to the death. That's very annoying, and OSR is very much like, you don't need to fight everything to the death. As a matter of fact, fighting's not exactly the smartest thing. Exploration is, and through exploration you get discoveries, and through discovery you learn about you. It's the proverbial learning that the Medusa can be defeated with a mirror, or the troll can be defeated with acid and fire, and that kind of thing. So instinct checks and actions, maybe when it's the reaction of human and non-humanoid things that, when confronted with something, might have it perform. It's basically like a reaction check, but more instinctual. So, like, for example, combat trained humans, you might either they might freeze in confusion doing nothing, or reposition to get a better place to fight, or duck taking the total defense action, or spend a round looking around the battlefield, or blindly attacking the nearest enemy, or attack an object barrier or downed foe. Also, if you want to use these as like random players, random enemies, what's their next action going to be? You can use this, because sometimes it can feel a little unfair if the game master, narrator, dungeon master, storyteller, whatever, pounces on a downed player. They might feel it's unfair. So you could either have like rolls to say, hey, listen, this monster's going to chew down on your character even though you're paralyzed, and the player character's like, there's nothing I can do about it. And it's like, well, you did decide to walk up and try to punch that monster in the throat. It just didn't work in your favor, right? And you can use random dice to enable like what's going to happen. Even automatons and beings that might be arrogant or magical, sadistic, undead creatures and whatnot. And it goes on and on. And there's some there are plenty of in-world tables And lastly, we'll do with background actors, and then we'll get out of here. This game, like Stars Without Number, does have a faction trait. So can you explain how tags work? Absolutely, I will. So let's see. Let's go back to some tags and see if we can find a page. Combat challenges. No. Yeah, okay. Here we go. Tags. Let's see, +2 is 182. Okay, so here we have court tags. Let's get this to a single page, and there we are. I increased the size so much that it wants to move, or it'd be too much. All right, so here we have a blighted tag, and this blighted tag has there's no rule in how you use these. This is just like, man, I want to include this in the game, and I need a good way to remind me how to use it. So a hidden blight is, little small paragraph here: one or more members of the court are afflicted with the blight, but are concealing their condition. Their particular blight is not physically obvious to onlookers, but may have severe psychological or hidden physical manifestations. At least some of the other court members have a good reason to aid this concealment, if only to avoid the scandal of being known to carry blighted genetics. Now, this is an in-world thing for within Worlds Without Number, but you get the point. Right? And if you decided to add this into your game, well, what practice will you do to add that in the game? And then down here, we have reminders to you of adding the blight into the game, this corruption that is spreading. Half disease, half otherworldly mutation kind of thing, half from the outer realms or whatever. So E stands for enemies. And there's usually about three to four of these kind of enemies that you can include into the world, whether you want to make it direct, like the players are literally hunting out the blighted, or they've traveled somewhere, haven't realized they entered into a place with the blight, and you want to kind of remind them and drop little clues. And so that's what these are. So for example, our very first enemy is a blight demented leader being shielded by others, right? So there might be a leader, and everyone knows they're slowly being corrupted, but other people are like, shh, don't let anybody know. Here's another enemy, a ruthless investigator seeking answers. Now, the ruthless investigator seeking answers, you might think like, well, wouldn't they be on the PC side? But maybe this person's just going around being ruthless and accusing everybody. And now the blight could be lycanthropy. The blight could be something from the lower planes. The blight could be anything. It could be a fungus that's growing or whatever in people. And lastly, another enemy could be a murderous court member bent on resolving matters. Like, I don't know. What is it? What happened here in the United States? The McCarthyism. Is kind of like that, and a murderous court member might be somebody who has the authority to basically execute people by their words, not necessarily by their specific actions by their own hand. F stands for friends, so these might be allies for the player characters, like a blighted struggling with their curse, or a court member trying to protect the secret, or a blighted parent trying to help their child. And again, you can throw these in. And mind you, when you're stuck for for something to throw in to remind the players, this can be like your go-to. And like I said, you could just copy and paste this and go like, oh yeah, since the players aren't latching onto the hook I just dropped in front of them, maybe there's a blighted parent trying to help their child, and maybe that parent is like, asking for help, stumbling down the city streets or something, and everyone's ignoring them, and the players are like, why is everybody ignoring this lady? And that could lead to a story. Now, mind you, later on, if the players ignore the same parent trying to help their child, that child might mutate later on and be a great beast that the players have to stop, and then realize, oh, this flashes back to that moment with that piece of story element you threw in there. So yeah. C stands for complications. Yeah, the blight is light enough to be lifted somehow, or the blight is somehow useful to the afflicted, like lycanthropy. Things can be a drug that ameliorates the blight, or proof of a blighted lineage, or a bribe paid to hush the matter. And then there's places like a secret retreat for expressing blighted urges, a hall of glorified ancestral memorials, or a prison for badly affected blighted members. And that's just an example of how we could use it. So I hope that helped. I know I was being a bit like generalized there, but I hope it can help. Let's see. Blights and consequences. Oh, combat complications. I didn't even do that one. 236. Combat complications. So again, and mind you, you could add this in on the fly, or prep it if you want to. We love ourselves some combat, but a lot of times we do this combat thing where oh, you're very welcome. Yeah. No, you're so bad. You're very welcome. A child turned into a great beast, just like in real life. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to share that Justin from Bricks and Boards shares the video on how to create a characters in Worlds Without Number. Yep. Bricks and Boards. I listen to him a lot. Who else is it? There's somebody has a similar name too. It's a three-word name, like books something and something. Oh my goodness. But yes, because he does Bricks and Boards does sometimes does board games, which I'm not technically into because I don't get a chance to play a lot of board games. But how about urban blight driving down property values? Yeah. A little too close to home, but hell yeah. Okay, so for combat challenge complications, yeah, there's a bunch of these tables here. Let me do a single pager so we get a little closer into here. Combat complications, just so we're not always fighting on a green screen. Basically, like, despite the fact you may say it's a jungle or mountain pass or urban or down in a dungeon, it all seems to be pasted to the walls. It doesn't have an effect on the combat. But if these combat challenge tables, you can kind of change up what's going on, like twists and things like that, like what's going on right now. For example, if a monster is absorbed in eating a meal, just because a 8th or 9th level challenge monster is confronting 1st through 3rd level characters, it doesn't mean the monster's automatically going to turn and you roll initiative. Maybe they turn the corner and the monster's already eating something, like maybe that giant scorpion is chowing down on the carcass of a dead camel, and you automatically know you're in a cursed desert, right? And the PCs are like, we're going to tiptoe past this damn thing before it sniffs us out. Although the monster might be upset that you are intruding on its meal, right? We've seen that happen before. Pack of wolves eating something, you don't reach into, when an animal's eating, you don't reach in to get what it needs unless it's important to retrieve, like, an important map or magic item that the pack of wolves is devouring. It's on the dead body, and the wolves could care less about the item that you need to get, which complicates it, the combat challenge, making it far more interesting than turn corner, roll initiative, clash. Right? Twists. There's twists and turns. Like this happens a hell of a lot in Vampire. White Wolf games, right? Killing them would enrage a seemingly unrelated person or group. Yeah. Eliminating this target would somehow release or remove a check on a dire foe. You know, it's like, let's kill the cultists. Maybe you don't want to stop them from chanting, because maybe it's been holding back a great evil and you didn't realize that, or at least keeping it in check or whatever. But anyway, problems that they have. This goes on to create, other combat challenges. What's that bestial monster doing? Yeah, it's currently hunting something else, but might choose to select the PCs as new prey. And the PCs may learn, like, maybe this animal or beast has a great sense of smell or sight or hearing, and use that as a way to navigate around it by throwing down food or making a noise that sounds like the very type of prey that they're looking for, or something like that. Yeah, it's fighting another of its kind over a mate is very common as well. It's mating season. That's why the boulets are coming up out of the ground and charging towards each other or whatever. Wilderness lair complications, deep chamber complications, urban dwelling complications. Yep. And lastly, 374. Again, tables and tools to use. You know what? So we can get past this real quick. Tables and tools. These are iterums. Basically, like, hey, you know what? You want to add some a unique feature or something? Again, random tables. Getting those cobwebs out of the brain. Realms of evil, summoned creatures from the iterums. How did they get there? What are they doing? What are they good for? What do they get out of it if they've been summoned from someplace else? Alternate worlds, deviations of reality, ways to have like a table, a compound table to detail different ways that, like, reality is being altered in some kind of way, shape, or form. Additional GM tools. Ocular adventure adjustments. A GM is often dubious about their own creations. They have the general thread of an idea, but they aren't certain it's the right idea. Sometimes they're confronted with a concept or a twist that's attractive, but just not quite right. And then here's some tables to affect it. How to throw something into the adventure, themes, reality intrudes into the situation, architectural designs, and this is all towards the back of the book. Architectural designs. Maybe you've got 3 coastal cities and you want each one of them to be different because there were, I don't know, the 3 settlers from a far land or something, and you're like, damn, I keep coming up with fishing village. Maybe I should come up with something different. So, structural, visual motifs, structural features, architectural adjectives, favorite materials, blah, blah, blah. Settlement designs, color schemes, and then a whole bunch of fractal adventure seeds. You roll D20 and you pick one up, and usually there's a question of some sort or information that isn't fully fleshed out, but that's what an adventure seed is for. So, adventure seeds, enemies, friends, complications, things, places. Yep. Random NPCs. Gotta have yourself some random NPCs, plus names and things like that. Characteristics. upper class, lower class, criminals, merchants, tribal people, villagers, warriors, and random traits for them, characteristics, appearance and mannerisms for your NPCs, ambitions, close friendships, and details about close friends. Maybe some of those NPCs become close friends to the player characters. Personal tragedies, romances, troubled romances, and then Kickstarter. So guys, thank you so much for letting me just show it off a little bit. Again, I'm highlighting the randomization, but yeah, that's just me. Books, Bricks, and Boards is mainly TTRPGs. He just did one for Hyperborea. Yep, and here is his creations. Were you unable? I bet you weren't able to place the link, but I could probably find it. Let's see. Let me go find his channel. There we go. Share this out here. There it is. Books, Bricks, and Boards, and there's Hyperborea. Watch the breakdancing video. But cool. There he is with the Captain America t-shirt on. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Everyone have a great weekend. Oh, I don't care about that. Dude, I don't. I really don't care about that. It doesn't bother me at all. Yeah. I don't do this for the money or the accolades or anything like that. This is my morning coffee, and you guys just happen to be the recipients of me trying to wake the hell up in the morning, and I like to get my mind going. So yeah, so maybe I get a little bit more out of it than you do, which is unfortunate. But anyway, Worlds Without Number. Check it out. There's the link down below is free if you want to do a D20, or technically it's not D20. Specifically, it's actually like skill checks are used. 2D12, initiative is with a D8. Saving throws are with D20s. So it is technically a rules light game, but the book is filled with many different ideas. I could do that next week. I could. I was trying to. I'm horrible at promoting myself. Horrible. Didn't realize it was 6 a.m. until you mentioned morning coffee. What do you mean you didn't really listen? If you're that sleepy that you don't, no, you don't have to be part of my part of the world. I don't know. Where are you from there? Hellblade? Is it Hellblade? I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. But yeah, I am in the Ohio Valley. Technically, I am in the time zone of the Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern, whatever it's called. And so, yeah, it is technically 7:01 a.m. my time in the world. And so, yeah. You know what? Maybe I will do that tomorrow. Not tomorrow, next week. Texas. Oh, ooh, you're an hour behind? Yeah, you're like maybe an hour behind, depending on where you're at. Wow. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. Matter of fact, you know what? I will talk about the places that my name is located in terms of what I've done in the tabletop role-playing industry. So, including talking about Obsidian Star and Cool Name Goes Here, and Level Up Advanced 5th Edition from N-World, and my work with Critical Hit Publishing, especially Call of Cthulhu and stuff like that. So yeah, you know what? Maybe I will do that, because I never talk about that stuff. The reason why many of the reasons why, like, I'm not on Discord, I don't do a lot of social media and things like that, is because even when I have a job that I can't be online, and then He said, I would not stop you from making a stream tomorrow. I've thought about doing like random, like, and maybe I might just pop on with no subject matter at all. But you guys know I'm very squirrely with my personality. So I kind of have to have a theme to keep me straight. Otherwise, it might be pretty effing boring. I don't consider myself to be the most exciting person in the world, and to not have a purpose or a thing to talk about would just be like, ugh. But I appreciate that, Drew. Although I have been catching up on Heath's other channel, Table Top Talk or Table Talk or shit, I can't remember the name of it. Because he's putting up like clips and pieces from other things, and so I've been catching up on that, and using literary functions and mixing that with improv and tabletop role playing. I love it so much. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. Thank you, Kylie. Top tier squirrel. I appreciate that. I really do. I wish. So you guys know that I'm like 3 years out from retirement, and I refuse to put on a Walmart vest if I have to continue working. This is going to be my full-time job, right? But when I say full-time, I'm only going to put in like 10 to 15 hours a week or something. Right now, I'm only putting in like 5. Well, thumbnails and maybe 8 hours a week, ish. Well, I go over an hour, so maybe it's more like closer to 9 to 10 hours a week. But yeah, once I retire, I'll probably be putting in like 12 to 15 hours, maybe 20. And that'll just be, I'll be retired, so I've got like a pension and retirement plan, and too far away from Social Security and things like that. And I'll be able to engage in those kind of things. So I can't wait. But it's 3 years from now. 3 years seems like a long time for y'all young folk. Us graybeards, it's like right around the corner. So yeah, fewer people online on weekends, because the interwebs is only important when you're supposed to be working. That is true. That is true. If I showed you, like, I could show you the algorithm method that tells you when people are online, and it's pretty funny. It's pretty hilarious, because a lot of times people should be at work, and it's like, hey, here's the peak. It's supposed to give me the information on when I should be producing materials and what kind of materials and how long and things like that. And yeah, it's pretty bizarre. I am completely doing it the wrong way. That's why the channel the channel is growing very slowly, but that's not the point. I'd rather have you brilliant, intelligent, classy individuals here, far more than having a bunch of people stopping by, right? I like the brilliant ones, the people that want to engage and tell stories, and just listen in, and maybe gain some more information for what they want to do, and go, oh, I hadn't thought about that, or I hadn't thought about that game, or thank you for reminding me, and stuff like that. I like that kind of thing. So that's kind of where I sit. Not sure about you guys, but that's what I get out of it. So lastly, Worlds Without Number, Kevin Crawford. Ooh, the other books. If you want to check out Stars Without Number or Cities Without Number, if you are inclined, there is a free version of all 3 of these books. Sans artwork and probably a lot of the fluff material. And if you are interested in that kind of thing, check it out. Yeah, promotion when RPG becomes your full-time job. This will be fun. Yeah. Now, when I say full-time job, let me rephrase that. It would be full-time hobby. But yeah. Now, listen, if I'm retired, I'm probably going to travel a little bit. So there may be gaps in that, but maybe I might do that on the road. I don't know. I haven't really done that. Like traveled and done like a broadcast something when I'm out on like the high seas doing my cruising. Hell, the wife and I were talking about renting an RV and things like that. But maybe. Anyway, guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. Have a great weekend. I'm not going to hold you too much longer. Do the usual call to action. Like, share, subscribe, follow, all that bullshit. Whatever. Actually, don't even do that. Have a great weekend, guys. I'll see thee later. Peace and tranquility. Bye.